The Joe Rogan Experience.
Did you see that story in California, by the way, about how they're going to try and reteach math? Did you see this one from the New York Times?
What?
Yeah, it's solid.
Reteach math?
Thank you, XSXMness, for the 5 Get the subs.
So they're going to figure out how to teach math differently. They said that they don't want to have... They're getting rid of some of the objective standards with regard...
The pool man replied, wait, what? Did he reply the tweet that I ratioed him on? Deleted last week because people pointed out the defense just didn't understand how to describe image interpolation. Wait, what? No shot. No shot. Wait, what? Oh, that's a bummer, dude. No, he didn't. He didn't delete it. No. That's a different tweet. Unrelated. The ratio still stands. That was for something different. Okay.
To math. Because math...
I gotta pee, I'll be back.
They want to get rid of the idea that there are naturally gifted children. They said they're not allowed to say that they're naturally gifted children anymore.
Isn't that the case with New York as well? Didn't they get rid of
they're trying to get rid of the magnet schools over there, too.
But gifted programs, right?
Yes, the gifted programs, because there's too many Asian kids. America's white supremacist, so all the Asians are succeeding.
I love that narrative. So, no, what are they trying to do with math?
So it was this article in the New York Times, and I'm trying to remember all the details. They said you're not allowed to talk about naturally gifted kids. You're not supposed to reward right answers or punish wrong answers.
What?
So there's like a big kind of parents' revolt going on in California over this, because the idea was that there was too much racial disparity in math performance in California, and so changed the standards. Which, by the way, I can't think of anything more racist than that.
No,
that is so super racist. It's like not enough black kids are scoring well on the test. That means that black kids, I guess, are too dumb to do well on these tests. Get rid of the tests. Or alternatively, there's an explanation where kids need to study more.
Well, you only find out if someone knows things if you test them. It's the only way you find out. How else do you find out? You have to say, show me how to do this problem, and then the kid tries, and you go, oh, that's not how you do it.
By the way, I think this is I think the scam that is college is predicated on society trying to get around the basic truth that you just said, which is we can tell by test scores whether you know things and are good at.
Dog, you went to Harvard Law, bro. Shut up. Jesus fucking Christ. Motherfucker went to UCLA undergrad and then Harvard Law. He's like, college is a scam. It's like, yeah, it's a scam if you want to make sure that your fucking audience stays dumb. It's so annoying, dude. Fucking hate these people so much. Bro, I was in the gifted program and it literally doesn't do shit other than give you an inflated ego. I don't know. I was not a gifted kid and I'm not a gifted person in general. I'm a fucking idiot. Okay? But even as stupid as I am, I still recognize that, education is overall a good thing. Okay? It's a good thing. Not a bad thing. It's a fucking good thing. So shut the fuck up about how it's a bad thing. Oh my Lord, it pisses me off whenever motherfuckers say that. Colleges are a liberal breeding ground, which is why I went to Harvard, and I'm a conservative dipshit. Well, first of all, Harvard is very conservative, and neoliberalism is what you learn when you go to college. The only difference is that you're put in a diverse environment. So, of course, you're still hyper conservative when it comes to economics. But at the very least, you're a little bit more understanding of social justice and social issues as a consequence of living in a rather diverse environment. And also because they do teach you a little bit of social justice. They pump it into your brain a little bit. Now, only if you're a gigantic asshole would you ever consider that to be a bad thing. I can't believe we're teaching kids empathy. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? How is that a bad thing, you fucking asshole? But even then, it's too much.
Things.
Well, I mean, obviously there's some tests that favor people that have grown up in certain environments because you have more access to certain kinds of information. But once you teach people and then you test them, there's only one way to find out whether or not they know the information. They have to be tested. The idea that you're going to eliminate tests and somehow make things more equitable or more even is kind of crazy.
Actually, what you're going to do is you're going to make people more racist is what you're going to do. And the reason for that is because Thomas Sowell talks about this. He talks about different types of discrimination. And he says there's group discrimination where you base your perception of an individual on the group data that is available. And then there's discrimination, which is that a person is smart and they're of a group you don't like, and so you just ignore the fact they're smart because they're from that group. So the two examples that he gives, right, is let's say that you're walking down the street at night, and it's in an inner city neighborhood, and there's a black guy walking down the street, and he's wearing a hoodie, and he's a young guy, 17 years old. Are you going to cross the street or not if the opposing example is an 80-year-old white woman? Right? And he says, well, based on the group statistics, you're probably going to cross the street more often if it's the 17-year-old black kid than if it's the 80-year-old white woman. Now, let's say that 17-year-old white kid, that 17-year-old black kid, you know the kid. He's a nice kid. If you still cross the street, that's what makes you like a super giant racist.
What? Dude, what the fuck is this? Like, so much of what Ben Shapiro says, what Ben Shapiro says is so fucking stupid, dude. Like, I don't even understand. Like, he's just like, he's literally doing self-reporting on the timeline while simultaneously, yeah, racism is when you don't know every black person personally. Or sorry, racism is only when you know a black person and you still are afraid of them. What the fuck? My man just described racial bias and then said it's not racist if you have racial bias. I can't tell. Maybe I misunderstood. I got to run this back. I'm sorry.
You're going to make people more racist is what you're going to do. And the reason for that is because Thomas Sowell talks about this. He talks about different types of discrimination. And he says there's group discrimination where you base your perception of an individual on the group data that is available. And then there's like discrimination, which is that a person is smart and they're of a group you don't like, and so you just ignore the fact they're smart because they're from that.
Dude, both of those are still discriminatory, you fucking idiot. Looking at group data? Why is this still an argument in 2021? In the year of our holy Lord, why is it still a reasonable argument to make? It's also one that you never make about the default position, a white man. White men are responsible for an overwhelming amount of pedophilia, okay? Does that mean that, like, you suspect every white man is a pedophile? No, that would be discriminatory against white men. It's also not something that people do. It's nuts. Like, the whole point is you're literally fucking biased against black people, and you're trying to ad hoc justify that by claiming, well, the data makes it reasonable for me to be biased against black people and be afraid of black people. Like, you don't think that, like, every white man is a fucking mass shooter and a pedophile? And I know people in the chat are going to meme like, oh, I do, though. I do. Yeah, I got it, bro. Really funny. Men are trash. Men are trash. And then they fucking turn around and go, statistics are racist. Statistics are racist. It's like, no, dude. Statistics are not racist. Your interpretation and what you extrapolate from the data is racist, you dumb bitch. Yeah, if you look at it and go, well, sorry, black men are more violent inherently, or not inherently. He won't say that, obviously. And that's that's what the data shows, without even looking at the data and what it actually says. And then also on top of that, jump to the conclusion that, like, every black person that you see, well, you have a higher likelihood of being biased against them because you are operating in the underlying assumption that they're more violent because the data says so. Then yeah, you're doing racism with extra steps, okay? You have an inherent bias against black people, and you're using a couple extra steps to try to describe why that's a justifiable bias to have. It doesn't mean that you don't have a bias. You do have one. You are admitting that you have one, but then you're simultaneously trying to justify why you have it. So don't act like the conversation is about, like, whether you have a bias or not. The conversation now is why you have that bias, okay? It's such a weird fucking take to just, like, constantly say this over and over again. And, like, this is a big chunk of what the Republican argument revolves around. And the greatest example of this is looking at arrest records and extrapolating that like black people are more violent as a consequence of that, and then using that to justify over policing black communities, which is literally a cyclical problem. We know that when there are more cops, there are more arrests. We know that cops also tend to be very biased and prosecute and go after black people at higher rates. Looking at something as simple as marijuana use, for example, white people and black people, depending on where you look at, consume weed at a similar rate. And in some instances, actually, white people smoke more weed than black people do. But when you look to the actual data, black people are arrested way more frequently than white people do for crimes that revolve around marijuana, and also get longer sentences, even when you control the other factors at play. It's just the reality. So if you simply look at the fucking arrest records without recognizing any sort of like historical context, without even, if you just look at arrest records, it's not even like conviction rates or anything like that. But even then, even with conviction rates, there's still, again, the fact that like if your community is being biased against and they're being heavily persecuted for something that other people do as well, all you're doing is basically trying to put together a patchwork reason for the biases that you believe in. All the discrepancies in stop and frisk laws, for example, exactly. And it exists in like nearly every fucking part of the criminal justice system. It's such a dishonest thing. It's so, like, Ben Shapiro is so dishonest that he refuses to, even mention any of this stuff.
That group. So the two examples that he gives, right, is let's say that you're walking down the street at night and it's in an inner city neighborhood and there's a black guy walking down the street and he's wearing a hoodie and he's a young guy, 17 years old. Are you going to cross the street or not if the opposing example is an 80-year-old white woman? Right? And he says, well, based on the group statistics, you're probably going to cross the street more often if it's the 17-year-old black kid than if it's the 80-year-old white woman. Now, let's say that 17-year-old white kid, that 17-year-old black kid, you know the kid. He's a nice kid. If you still cross the street, that's what makes you like a super giant racist.
Yeah, that's idiotic, dude. Yeah. Everybody knows that, the Nazis and what they did in the Holocaust was bad only because they personally knew all the Jews beforehand. Like, okay, dude, got it. Good. You can only be racist if you fucking know the person beforehand and you still act out on the biased desires. What a fucking insane, absolutely insane fucking take, dude. Yeah, discrimination and racism only exists if you know someone and you still decide that they are lesser than. Great take.
In the former case, you're just using the group data available. The problem.
Comparing a dude walking down the street to a Nazi? No, I'm talking about the comparison there is not that these are similar levels of crimes. The comparison there is about the idiotic, the idiotic premise that he has. Rather than looking at the consequence of one's actions, or rather looking at the person's actions instead, you try to fucking change the subject to, oh, you just know someone. No, the reason why it's racist is because you have a bias against black people and you're trying to fucking make that bias stick by adding a faulty read on data. Okay?
Problem is that using group data available very often is wrong, right? What if the 17-year-old kid is a nice kid, right? You shouldn't be doing that either. You need specific data. Test data is specific data. So let's say now that you are an administrator at a college and you're not allowed to use test data. All you know is that on average, black kids score lower than white kids, right? So who do you let in? How do you make that decision? Wouldn't it be better for black kids for you to have the test data because you know which black kids definitely deserve to get in as opposed to which ones don't deserve to get in? So you start using stupid generalizations. The whole point is more specific data is better. More specific data fights discrimination. And yet we have this whole weird idea that if we get rid of specific data, if we get rid of test data, objective data, this is going to end discrimination. Precisely the reverse will occur. People will start using stupid stereotypes.
Okay, so I don't even know exactly what he's talking about, but I guess this is going to be the new the new conservative battleground. So I guess, crack our knuckles and learn about what this new thing that conservatives want to fucking cry about. So let's take a look. California tries to close the gap in math, but sets off a backlash. Proposed guidelines in the state would de-emphasize calculus, reject the idea that some children are naturally gifted, and build a connection to social justice. Critics say math shouldn't be political. If everything had gone according to plan, California would have approved new guidelines this month in math and education in public schools. But ever since the draft was open for public commentary in February, their recommendations have set a fierce debate over not only how to teach math, but also how to solve a problem more intractable than Fermat's last theorem, closing the racial and socioeconomic disparities in achievement that persist at every level of math education. So, I am a leftist. I believe that the disparity in education directly ties to what we talked about yesterday for a very long time. It goes back to systemic racism. It goes back to redlining. It goes back to how to distribute the property taxes in localities back to those very wealthy and historically white, predominantly white neighborhoods that end up having good education, okay, in their public schooling system versus the material inequality that's built into the system for black people as a consequence of redlining, as a consequence of not having enough intergenerational wealth, as a consequence of slavery, as a consequence of Jim Crow laws, and the like. There's a reason why if you are living in fucking Crenshaw, your opportunities in education are way worse than if you literally live in a rich neighborhood like Beverly Hills. Okay? So the way to solve that problem is by addressing the material inequality, by reshifting our priorities to fund public education adequately in all neighborhoods, maybe even funding black and brown neighborhoods or poor neighborhoods more, so that we can create a reasonable level of equality in our public education system. Now, of course, Democrats and Republicans both do not want to address that because that would mean taking taxes away from wealthy people and reappropriating those taxes back into neighborhoods where poor people live, neighborhoods where black people live. And God forbid we fucking do that. So instead of doing that, Democrats suggest charter schools, which further cripple the public education system, take funds that are already in this like destitute and broken down system that gets breadcrumbs, take those remaining funds away from them and give it to unaccountable private schools that are charter schools, right? And then say, oh, you get a voucher, school choice. Or fully privatize schooling, which has demonstrably been a failure in a place like Sweden, for example, which is why they immediately abandoned that when they saw their test scores fucking fail across the board. There are numerous examples when you look at OECD nations of privatization in the K through 12 education system being a gigantic problem as it pertains to the schooling that individuals are receiving. So if Ben wants to talk about data, when it comes to schooling, public education, adequately funded public education, is always going to beat out a patchwork system that we have, just like every other patchwork system that we have that has been a demonstrable failure, like healthcare. Okay? Abandoned lol, it's still going on. Yeah, I mean, not entirely abandoned, but so, having said all of that, what did the California libtards do? What is this? Lol, Hasan is some of the most deranged hate followers on earth. I'm getting far-right creeps citing fake FBI crime statistics in my mentions now, while saying that a black radical leftist who kills white right-wingers would be reelected the next president of the United States. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do. Unfortunately, I deal with them every day. Anyway, that was besides the point. Let's get back to the main point at hand, what we were talking about. And that is California trying to solve the inequality in education. So instead of solving the inequality in education with material restitution or by addressing the material inequalities, they are going to try doing all this other dumb shit. Okay? Yes, everything was restocked. The orange was restocked. All the hoodies are restocked. You can purchase them now. California guidelines, which are not binding, could overhaul the way many school districts approach the math instruction. Draft rejected the idea of naturally gifted children, recommended against shifting certain students into accelerated courses in middle school, and try to promote high-level math courses that could serve as alternatives to calculus like data science or statistics. The draft also suggested that math should not be colorblind and that teachers could use lessons to explore social justice, for example, by looking at gender stereotypes and word problems, or applying math concepts like the topic of immigration or inequality. What the fuck? What? Fucking hate liberals so much. It's like they will literally do anything but give black people money, okay? It's just like just give black people money. Just please, just literally stop this, okay? What the fuck? What the fuck is this? What are you doing? Like, they will literally do anything, okay? Like, how? How do you do this? How? Just fucking, oh my God. Like, what is this? Like, in a math class? Like, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about gender stereotypes and apply math concepts to topics like immigration or inequality. Like, what are you solving when you do that? Ultimately, this is like inconsequential, okay? It literally doesn't matter. Getting upset at this one way or the other is idiotic and pathetic, and that's precisely what, conservatives do. I'm mad at it because this does not address anything, okay? This doesn't address any of the fucking problems, and it just makes you feel good. Why is it always about, like, feel-good solutions to material inequality? Oh God, we can't tax people. We can't reappropriate funds to people that need it, but we'll make you feel better. We'll make ourselves feel better like we're doing something. It's like one big endless sequence of fucking patting yourself on the back for, I did something. Okay? The battle over math comes at a time when education policy on issues including mass testing, teaching about racism has become entangled with bitter partisan debates. Even in heavily Democratic California, a state with 6 million public school students and outsized influence on textbook publishing nationwide, the draft guidelines encounter scathing criticism with charges that the framework would inject woke politics into a subject that's supposed to be practical and precise. Like, what the fuck? It is lawn sign liberalism. Exactly. That's a perfect term for it. In this house, black people are human beings unless they want to come into my neighborhood, in which case I will call the cops on them. Here's an example from my textbook. Tupac has 6 handguns in his baggy pants. I think he has 4 guns in his oversized hoodie. How many handguns do these thugs have together? Yeah. We're solving the issue. We did a really good job. Like some fucking racist person. It's like racist liberalism. As a person who loves math, this would have made me hate math. I mean, like, it's just so stupid. Like, who are you helping with this? It's a super minor point in the overall plan that is an aesthetic bombshell for the right. Absolutely. All right, liberals don't see the problem as a material inequality. They see a ghost in the machine of institutions which do enforce racism, but mainly through classism, which overtly affects black people and other minorities. Like, if Donald Trump is locking up, 5 kids in cages, and Joe Biden ends up locking up 3 kids in cages, which president should deserve to win re-election? Like, that's your immigration baked into fucking math, dude. Come on, we're learning. We're learning algebra today, kids. People will really go to battle for math to say the same. Like, none of these motherfuckers know about math, like math, literally don't want math to be taught if it were up to them. But when God forbid you add like you sprinkle a little bit of fucking wokeness on it, okay? All of a sudden everyone's like, whoa, what the fuck? I said teached. Maybe English should be teached. Maybe you should fucking speak 2 languages fluently and better than native speakers. And then we can have that conversation, American dummies, okay? Sometimes I fuck up. Suck my dick. Yes, we have a stated nation that hates math and is not doing well with it. Critics of the draft said authors would punish high achievers by limiting options for gifted programs. An open letter signed by hundreds of Californians working in science and technology described the draft as an endless river of new pedagogical fads that effectively distort and displace actual math. Williamson, senior fellow, I think it's really not right. Distrust over the draft made it to Fox News. Yeah, I love using the shut the fuck up on ESL to make fun of motherfuckers that make fun of my typos. Yeah, exactly. Isn't it trying to address the difference between testing scores of poor and wealthy neighborhoods? I'm not saying this is a good attempt, but maybe in the right direction. No, it's not in the fucking right direction. If you want to solve the problem of like poor testing in test scores in black neighborhoods versus white ones, you have to solve the problem of reallocation and redistribution of funds. That's it. If you trap funds into the specific districts where people are paying higher taxes on their fucking, on their property, that then directly funds the school in that district, which then also creates a cycle where your house is more expensive year over year because now you're in a good school district rather than a bad school district. You know what I mean? It all still ties back to the fucking investment vehicle concept that people have over shelter, which is really fucking triggering and annoying. But that's how it works. But God forbid, dude, you think these fucking liberals, oh my Lord, you think these liberals even for a second would allow their fucking taxes that they pay, their high property taxes that they pay for their nice homes in fucking California would go to like a different neighborhood? Oh, God forbid, dude. You know motherfuckers would lose their shit, okay? They would lose their shit. Sandy's trying to implement new racially sensitive affirmation action testing policies. She knows that the mean scores for white and black students are separated by 10%, but the median score is only 2%. Utilizing statistical analysis, explain why this difference may signal underlying racial issues. Anyway, it also promoted something called detracking, which keeps students together longer instead of separating high achievers into advanced class before high school. I don't know if that's a bad thing. Is that a bad thing? Is there like data that shows that like putting kids in like a higher level, like immediately advancing certain kids is a bad thing? Or I mean, not bad thing, sorry. Like instead of keeping them in the same level with other people so they can help others as well as a teacher, it's a good thing. Ben Shapiro's walking down the street. What is the possibility he crosses the street? It doesn't help the ones struggling. Yeah, I feel like it's probably better for the ones that are struggling. Because all of a sudden, the students that are left behind are neglected. Further neglected. You know? But I don't know. There might be research that proves me wrong. And I genuinely don't know. But I suspect that like having a different tiered education system might hurt the people that are left behind. You know? The San Francisco Unified School District already does something similar. Their middle school math students are not split up, but rather take an integrated course, meaning to build their understanding year by year, though older high school students can still opt into high-level classes like calculus. Sophia Alema Yehu, 16, a high school junior in San Francisco, advanced along the integrated track, even though she did not always consider herself a gifted math student. But maybe I am good at math. The model has been in place since 2014, yielding a few years of data on retention and diversity that has been picked over by experts on both sides of the detracking debate. So there is some data on it. I ultimately don't know. But what I do know is this, and this has been proven time and time again. If you fund schools adequately, okay, instead of locking school funding into immediate districts where property values are higher and therefore property taxes are higher, you are going to be able to get better education results across the board. So more funding is necessary, not less. But unfortunately, both Democrats and Republicans advocate for less funding, whether it's advocating for charter schools or straight up school voucher programs for private schools. Both of those things take away funds from the public schooling system and redistribute those funds back to unaccountable private schools, some of which who fail, by the way. But because they're unaccountable, it doesn't even fucking matter. They can even, in certain instances, charter schools can literally fail in the middle of the school year. So after this Ben Shapiro video, there's another one. We're going to move on to the Facebook's odd metaverse move. I really want to know what else Ben Shapiro talked about. I hope there's more clips because this is kind of boring so far. Here's proof you're right. What Americans keep ignoring about Finland's school success. Well, I do know this. Yes. Yes, I do know. I base most of my analysis on schooling in the United States of America from a country that is profoundly successful, demonstrably successful with its education, Finland. Mogul moves, easy clap.
And you know how, like, so I saw, you know how Hasan's doing, like, really ethically sourced merch that has, like, not, admittedly, not as good margins, but also he's donating a lot of it? I'm doing none of that. This is coming straight out of a factory inside of a factory. The maximum age that I asked for at the factory is 5. So that shit's going to be cheap as fuck. It's going to come quick. And I get all the profit, baby. Woo! Let's go!
A lot of for-profit voucher schools in Sweden went bankrupt middle of school years. Yeah. My city voted down additional school funding, which would have been less than a 100-year property tax increase. They are using the same books from when I was in school and graduated in 05. Yeah. Your community of greedy and annoying trust fund kids who buy all the merch in the middle of the week with their mommy's card is such bullshit. It's a spit in the face of wages who get paid on Fridays. Unlike your top of the hour ad breaks that run every hour and don't have to worry about being paid on a certain day. Well, that's right. But you do still have to worry about whether or not you have a free Twitch Prime subscription or at least $5 to be able to subscribe to avoid said ad breaks. I'm going to use that as a layup. Instead of getting mad, you know what? That was really good. I'm just going to fucking, I'm going to take that L and I'm going to move on with it. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 60-second ad break. It was very well done, chatter. And if you no longer want to see those ads, if you don't want a 2-tiered education system, or if you don't want a 2-tiered ad watching system, all you need to do is subscribe. And you can subscribe for $5 or you can subscribe for free with a Twitch Prime. And then save that $5. Okay. Go invest that $5, in a Gary Vaynerchuk YouTube video so you can learn how to make at least $69 so you can purchase the Peepo hoodie that was now restocked at ideology.shop. These are the real mogul moves, baby. Or you could just fucking subscribe for $5 or for free with the Twitch Prime to avoid the ad break that's coming right now. Every time I leave a meeting and unmute Hasan, I have to hear the ad break. Hey, Anorak Stack allowed 25 people to fucking avoid the ad breaks. Thank you, Anorak Stack. Gifting 25 subs. Literally bought my hoodie and Bernie shirt from the seat of my forklift. Damn, we got forklift certified boys in here. There was no leftovers podcast last week, but because I was in Vegas, but there will be one this week. Forklift boys. Yeah, speaking of forklifts, I did see the Terry Crews Amazon vid, and I will be watching the Terry Crews Amazon vid. Don't you worry about it, but later. I just said I haven't had sexual relations in months. I miss it now, so now I jog outside in flip-flops to remember the sound. Damn, dude, you're having some fucking wet lays, bro. Flip, 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 flip. Don't worry, if you get the fucking hoodie, you will literally continue your streak of not having sex. Let's be real. These are virgin-approved merchandise.